and I'm also going to send out the recording to them. There's one more participant I believe is joining in, so let's just wait for a moment.
Yeah.
Hi, who just joined now? Hi, this is Bhupinder here. Who just joined us now? Just a minute back. Who just joined? All right, looks like the surprise participant, the new participant, is having a little bit of difficulty in speaking, not able. Oh, okay, Nikash.
It's
Nikash
Nick.
is here. Hi, Nikash. How are you doing today?
Yeah.
How are you doing today, Nikash?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, you just joined at the right moment. We were about to get started. All right, so let's get started for today's
Okay.
session. We'll get started with the integration
Okay.
management. And let me quickly go and
Okay.
share my screen and then we will get started.
Okay.
All right, so let's get started with the integration management. It's a short topic. It's going to be a very short topic. Now, integration management is all about integrating all the knowledge areas together. So yesterday I sent out one video link to you regarding the Dubai mega projects. I hope you got a chance to look at it. You got a chance to explore different options in that and found out what were the different things that they were speaking about. Just to give you a gist about it, I think that project itself, we need to always envision that we are working in that project whenever we are answering any question for the PMI. Whether it's PMP or CAPM, as we have two participants to work on that, on different requirements. So it's going to be, imagine that you're a robot who's handling that project. Now, why was that project started up? Couple of things which we saw. Initiation is all about project charter, right? Somebody has to give you the project charter that this is a project that has to be done, and this project has to be done because of X reason. Without that project, we would not be able to achieve a business objective or strategy or financial goal. So there has to be a business reason behind we initiating a project. It's all about money eventually. Business is all about money. So why are we making that investment? That is where initiation is all about. Initiation is about what has to be done and why it has to be done, right? Why we should do it. So in initiation in that project, we saw that Sheikh Mohammed saw somewhere around 2016, the oil reserve of Dubai would run out. Now, Dubai right now, or that time, was primarily based on completely oil reserves, and their economy was booming, but at the same point of time, it was just because of oil. Now, they don't want to sustain only on oil because oil will eventually run out, and what would they do without the oil? So they wanted to move, they wanted to shift and get more money from or sustain their economy through tourism. To increase
Tourism.
tourism, yeah, to increase tourism, they had a challenge, which was a coastline. They had a limited coastline, which they cannot extend. So they wanted to reclaim the land. They wanted to build an island inside the sea, using which they can get 77 kilometers additional coastline. Now that was about the project, why this project was started up, because they wanted to increase the tourism by 3 times, and that was the entire business case. So we saw an example over there of procurement. When we talk about procurement, who's doing the work? I cannot do it, make or buy. Who should do the work for me if I cannot do it? So they immediately found that the Dutch have done this kind of work in the past. They immediately got the procurement document signed with the Dutch team. Dutch team was given the task and they start working on it. Then we saw, we saw the examples of each one. So time, it had to be done within 5 years. The cost was, the cost was not a constraint there because Sheikh Mohammed had, the Crown Prince of Dubai, he had good access to, the entire money part. From that perspective, that was not a risk. Then we saw scope, 77 kilometers. So let me just write it down over here while I talk about it. Time, 2016. cost, not a constraint, scope, 77 kilometers. Stakeholders, Sheikh Mohammed is a stakeholder, or all the people who would be coming over there, they want to visit Dubai for its island, for its beaches. So that was a stakeholder engagement, stakeholder management. Human resource people from Dutch, were given the task, and then they hired the right people to get the entire work done. So they hired the engineers. There are different engineers who was working on the project. Then we saw risk. There were two types of risks that we saw over there. One is known risk of storms, which can impact the project, which has a potential of washing out the entire work which was done. So storms example we saw. Unknown risk was 9/11, which happened. Now somebody cannot plan for 9/11, right? That just happened. So risk example also we saw. Then regarding quality, we saw that the work had to be done with the quality parameters in mind. So considering that the water should not get stagnated, we saw that they were continuously monitoring the parameter wall. The wall there should not be any breaks in the rocks, which were the boulders which were put over there. It should be able to withstand the force of the sea, right? So that, and another example was the algae which was coming up. So they were looking at it. Then communication to the stakeholder, to the Sheikh Mohammed, was through the satellite. Procurement we have seen. How many we have done? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. What is left out now? TCS is, integrating all of these together. Right, that's integration management. So we saw all the knowledge areas over there. The project started with initiation, in which the project charter was prepared. Project charter is all about the project business case, why the project has to be done. Then the planning was done about carrying out the work with in such a fashion that it is built, the entire island is built with the natural material. Planning was done. While planning was going on, execution was started without planning completed. So that was one of the risks, that they were not having sufficient time for them to plan. They had to start the execution quickly because the work had to be done before 2005. Monitoring and control, and typical example of that monitoring and control that we saw was somebody monitoring the parameter wall, if there is any cracks over there or anything which is popping up. Then we also saw an example of algae. They kept on looking at if the algae is coming back or not. So that was another example. And then finally, the project was prepared and closed. Right. So this is a typical life cycle of the project that we saw in that entire video. Right. Let's move forward. Now we're going to talk about the project integration management. Project integration management is a short topic. We're going to cover about the project integration management. Integration management is about if we have to combine the multiple knowledge areas together, that is integration. For example, if the client comes back and says that add another scope for me. In that situation, if they want for additional scope, then I need to get additional time, I need to get additional cost, I need to get additional budget. That means I'm making changes in multiple areas. That becomes my integration management, that multiple knowledge areas are getting affected. That is pretty much my integration management. So in integration management, the topics that we have is we need to prepare the project charter. Project charter is a combination of, project charter has the details of high-level scope, high-level time, high-level budget that is available, statement of work, business case. Now this is coming from different knowledge areas of time, cost, scope, risk, all these areas it's getting integrated with. So that is why the develop project charter is featuring into integration management. Then we have develop project management plan. Now project management plan is about what are we going to do and how are we going to do it, right? What and how we are going to do the entire work. That is about project management plan. Project management plan is never complete till the time all its subsidiary management plans are complete. What are the subsidiary management plans? Scope management plan, cost management plan, schedule management plan, scope management, HR management, communication management, stakeholder management, risk management, procurement management, and so on. Right. So all these knowledge areas are called as the subsidiary management plans, for which need to be completed for us to say project management plan is completed. Planning part is going to define what am I going to do and how am I going to do it, right? So what and how is answered by the project management plan. Always remember, you will not execute the work till the time the project management plan is signed by the project board. Now, signed doesn't mean it's a physical signature. It could be just acknowledgement to your email, but then it needs to be acknowledged. It needs to be signed by your project board. Once your project plan is prepared and is approved, we move to direct and manage project work. This is where we execute the work. We prepare whatever was planned. We execute the work and keep on building the work packages. During this time period, we acquire the team, we manage the team, we ensure that the team's development needs and coaching and feedback is taken care of. And then we need to monitor the work as well. How the work is progressing. Is it going as per the plan or is it deviating? So we look at the variance analysis. That is in monitor and control project work. We need to ensure that the progress is happening as per the plan. We are neither going too fast, not going too slow. We're just going as per the plan, right? So that we don't overspend or underspend, or we don't come in faster than we planned, because coming in faster would mean we are incurring more cost. So that's what we do with the monitoring and controlling. And if we find there is any deviation from the plan, we need additional budget, we need additional time frame, or there is just a change because I need to get back to my plan documents, or I need to control my work. Any deviations from the plan which has taken the work beyond the threshold limits, or if the client has come back with an additional request of adding any kind of new scope into your project, that is done with perform integrated change control. In perform integrated change control, what do we do? Any change which happens in the project, any change once the plan document gets signed and the baseline is formed, any change to it has to go through change management process. There would be a lot of times your client comes back and says that I don't want to get this work done through through tedious channels of yours. It's a small work. It's just 2 hours of difference. You're just going to add another 2 hours and get this delivered for me. Well, in that situation, play with your words and ensure that the client or anyone who's approaching you follows the procedure of documenting the change. The change has to be documented. Then it comes to you for evaluation. You evaluate the impact of the change in terms of the dollar, in terms of the integration conflicts, in terms of the time increase which is required, and then submit the impact analysis to the project board. The change control board rather. You submit it to change control board, who can take a decision and can either approve it, or they might reject it, or they might defer it for the future. In any situation, it gets recorded into the change log, so that all the changes are recorded into a log, so that in the future the same change is not analyzed again and again. It's already analyzed. It's whatever decision has been taken, it's parked somewhere, right? So that we can refer to it and we don't keep on wasting energy. If the change gets approved, we need to implement it and then monitor the success of the change and report it out back. Right, so this is the change management process, and eventually we close the project. We go and close the project with, we go and close a project where we do the financial, legal, and administrative closure. Right, so this is the section where we update the lessons learned document. We ensure that the lessons learned document is updated, and whether the project is terminated or successfully completed, we need to ensure the lessons learned document is completed, so that we don't repeat the same mistakes again and again, and we move forward with our project. Right, so this is about the integration management. Any doubts, any concerns that we have? It was a very simple topic which talks about the entire project management as a whole. Now we will start getting into more details, more granular details of the tools and techniques and how a particular project is maintained. Now again, before we proceed further, let me speak about this thing. We're going to talk about the tools and techniques, but I don't want you to remember the tools and techniques. What I want you to do is understand. Right? What I want you to do is understand what and how it's done. right? Because in the examination, it's going to be practical questions. It's not going to be that for this particular task, what are the different tools and techniques that you have. Understand these different tools and techniques, and wherever I want you to mug, I will tell you that this is something which, you cannot do anything about it and you have to mug it. But till the time I say mug, just try to understand those concepts so that you are able to practically apply it. Till now, any questions before we move forward?
Nothing from my side.
Nothing from my side as well.
All right, perfect. All right, so just give me a moment. I'm going to open up another document and then we shall get started with the scope management. Just a moment, please. All right, so let's get started with the scope management chapter now. The scope management chapter is about managing the scope, and we're going to talk about the scope management and different processes in the scope management. Any knowledge area that we're going to start off with now, we are going to first plan for that knowledge area. Under what this plan features? This is a subsidiary management plan which is under the bigger plan document, which is the project management plan. Under that we have all the subsidiary management plans. Once again reiterating the fact, what is plan document? It talks about what has to be done and how it has to be done, right? So let me get started with the plan scope management. Plan scope management is all about managing the plan and managing the scope. We getting the approval from the stakeholders about what has to be what are the different requirements, how am I going to solicitate the different requirements, how am I going to convert those requirements into the scope. And scope is something which I'm going to build eventually. Requirements could be huge. Requirements could be, let me take an example here. For example, let's say I want a car, and I might want a Jaguar or something out of the world, but what am I really willing to pay for in the allotted time period? So that is the difference between the requirement and the scope. Requirement could be huge, but the scope is what the client is ready to pay for. We're going to talk about the requirement management and the scope management both. So let's get started with the scope management first. Okay, when we are planning the scope management can come from in the project charter as well. Now the project charter that we have, it has the information about it has information of the statement of work, right? What is the work that we have to do? From there as well we can get the information about what is the work that we have to do. Project management plan also talks in detail about project management plan is a high level plan which contains all the subsidiary management plans. That is the scope management plan is is one of the plan which makes project management plan. So these becomes my some of the inputs using which I can create the scope management plan. Then experts can tell me that what are the different ways with which I can create the plan, right? Experts can tell me that for this kind of a project you need to speak to all the stakeholders, or for a different type of stakeholder you don't need to refer to all the stakeholders, just look at the previous documents and you would be able to gather the scope. So experts can give me the information. Now the inputs that we have for the project management plan is the project management plan itself. Scope management plan, we have the project management plan, project charter which contains the information about the high level product features, which is coming from the statement of work. Enterprise environmental factors where we need to find out what is the organizational culture, infrastructure, marketplace conditions which impact my output of the scope management. Yes. told you that this work can be done in 5 days, 6 days, whatever time frame, they're bound to honor it now, right? Because you have negotiated with them, you have involved them in the planning stage. So that is why we say that expert judgment is always one of the common tool and technique. What are the other common inputs for any of the processes that we have? We discussed this earlier. One is the enterprise environmental factor, my enterprise factor, and the environmental factor. Environmental factor is anything which governs me to do a project from the environment perspective, and second is from the enterprise perspective. And what could be environmental perspective? It could be the taxation law of the land, any law of the land. For example, if you're doing a pharmaceutical project, the same example which we took earlier, imagine the salt being banned, the salt which is a very important ingredient in your medicine, the work that you're doing, if it's banned in that land, you just cannot do the project in that location, right? That is your environmental factor. Enterprise factor would be any organization's policies and the procedures which impact your project from the cost perspective, from the scope perspective, from the time perspective, anything, right? So that becomes your enterprise environmental factor. This is again another input which you need to consider while preparing any of the document. Another one is the organizational process asset. So we said that you would not be preparing the project documents all by your own. You would be preparing these documents using the previous documents of your organization for similar looking projects, right? So you would be modifying those documents which earlier were used. You would just be modifying it to suit your project need. That is called as, what are the previous documents which are available with you? What are those called as? Those are called as organization process assets, right? And the output which we're generating is, it's the same, right? The process that we're doing. In this situation, we are preparing the plan scope management, so that becomes my output. Now, always remember, whenever we say we are planning, why are we planning? We are planning to safeguard our own interest and to get everybody on board with the same idea so that there is no communication gap. Why? What is it that we are safeguarding with? I have planned in X manner, you approved it, tomorrow don't ask me why I did not plan in Y manner, or why I did not follow another tool and technique right out of blue. There are tons and tons of tools and techniques which can be followed. Which is the tool and technique that you're going to follow in your project depends upon what you've mentioned in your plan document and what is approved by your project board. Remember, all your plan documents has to be signed by the project board before you execute them. So if they have signed it, now the document is ready, everything is crystal clear that everybody knows that how you're going to do it and what you're going to do. Tomorrow nobody is going to come back and say that, why have you not done this? If something goes wrong, people tend to put blame on you, right? People tend to say that, why have you not done this? Well, you can refer back and say that this is a document which we prepared, you signed it, and we followed the document. If there is a need, if we knew about these things that, following another tool and technique, we could have gathered more information, then of course somebody in the project board would have pointed it out and we could have followed it. Nevertheless, this is a lesson learned and we will follow the same in the future projects. Now the blame is not only coming onto you, it is it's shared by the project board. There's a huge difference in that, right? So that is why the plan document is prepared. Always remember, plan document is to find out what are we going to do and how are we going to do. Once it is approved, then you execute whatever was mentioned in your plan document. So we have prepared the plan document. In the plan document, we have prepared the requirements management plan, which is how are we going to solicitate all the requirements, how are we going to gather all the requirements which we have mentioned. So we're going to gather all the requirements. It could be whatever we have mentioned in the plan document. It could be by using brainstorming, or it could be by interviews, or it could be by you sending out the surveys. It could be by following any of the method that you have mentioned in your plan document. So collect the requirement, go ahead and collect the requirement. Now it's time for you to go and collect the requirement. The example that we shared yesterday was, I want to make a car for myself, which is a customized car. So the BA, business analyst, comes to me and collects all my requirement, not just mine, the sponsor. He collects the requirement of all the stakeholders, which is my wife, my kids. He collects the requirement of all of them. Then he's going to do the analysis on each of the requirement. So he's going to find out what is it, what it's going to cost to develop each of the requirement, and then going to come back to the sponsor and say that, okay, these are the requirements that we have collected. How much, what do you want me to actually go and develop, right? To collect the requirement, we can collect the requirement using interviews. We can collect the requirement using focus group. I don't want to probably involve all. Let's say in one of the category of the stakeholders maybe impacted, we have too many people, right? I don't want to speak to everybody, and it's going to be a humongous task. I cannot speak to everybody. Then I need to create a focus group. I can facilitate a workshop, right? I can have the group creativity techniques like Delphi. What is Delphi? Now this is one of the PMP question which often comes in the examination. What is Delphi? Always remember, Delphi is nothing but it's when you send out a survey to your stakeholders and when they are able to respond to it anonymously. Anonymously is the key word. When they're able to respond to it anonymously, that becomes your Delphi technique. As a group, you can create, as a group, you can do the discussions, come up with the decisions. You can send out the surveys and the questionnaire. What is the difference between surveys and questionnaire to the Delphi technique? Surveys and questionnaire might not be anonymous. You might still be able to gather the name who has given you the details. Observations. Well, let's say one of my friends wants to set up a manufacturing plant of creating, one of the any of the product. So setting up the factory is a project because this is one of first time he's going to do it, and it's not that every day in day out we're going to be creating the factories. It's just one of tasks. Now I can obviously go to another factory which has been producing the parts which this friend of mine wants to set up. I can go to another factory and observe what exactly is happening over there. With that observation, I can come back and set up the factory, right? So that observation can help me collect the requirement. What would be the requirements? I can benchmark, compare apples to apples. This factory contains, the earlier existing factories contains these machineries. So these machineries should be included. Context diagram. What is the context diagram? I will just get into all that. And the document analysis. So I can look at the document analysis and can come up with the, with the scope. With the requirements. For example, I can look into my statement of work. I can look into my project charter. I can look into my contract. Contract says that you have to complete your work within 1 year. If you don't complete your work within 1 year, your work, you will have 10% penalty. Now, getting the work done within 1 year itself is one of the requirement, right? So that is one of the document analysis which can be done. Let's speak about each of these in a detailed manner. So we have interviews which can be formal or informal, which we can speak to the people. Then the group focus groups, I can have SMEs of various functions come into one group, and I can brainstorm with that, not with everybody. Facilitated workshop. What's the difference between workshop and focus group? Well, workshop is with the key stakeholders, and it gets here we create something. Here we have workshop is where everybody works together. It's not a brainstorming session, it's more of a working session. Group creativity techniques, we have, when we talk about the group creativity techniques, we have the brainstorming, nominal group technique, idea mind mapping, affinity diagram, and multi-criteria decision analysis. Nominal group technique is when everybody is sitting together and not everybody is sitting together. Brainstorming is when everybody is sitting together. Nominal group technique would be when not everybody is sitting together, but larger group is present and we are brainstorming. Idea mind mapping is connecting of the ideas together. Affinity diagram is when, let's say I ask you, I tell you that you have, I give you sticky notes. Now you note down all of your ideas in the sticky notes and go and put it onto a wall. Then I again ask you that, okay, now you go back and don't talk to each other, but pull out the sticky note which you think is related to some other sticky note and combine those similar looking ideas, right? So with that, what will happen is there will be 3 or 4 boxes in which a lot of sticky notes will be there, and maybe some of the sticky notes are lying around separately, which is absolutely fine. So we are combining the ideas together. That means that we are looking at the ideas which has affinity to each other, right? Multi-criteria decision analysis. Now when you go for an interview, when you go in for interviews, you are hiring people. You don't hire people just on their technical skill, right? You hire people based on their technical skills, their communication skills, their probably attitude, are they good team players or not. So you take a decision based on the multiple criteria. That is nothing but the multi-criteria decision analysis. If you have to come up with a requirement over here or example for the requirement over here, similar requirements, when you're coming up, when you're creating a product from the multiple criteria, what would be the requirements for it, right? For example, If you're creating a pen, it should be made of plastic, it should not be slippery, it should not be rubbery. So that becomes your multiple criteria to understand the requirement, right? Group decision making techniques. Give me a minute. Let me just finish my tea and then we will get started with this group decision making technique. Just a minute. Alright, so what is group decision making technique? As a group, when we are arriving at a decision. Now, again, this is very important from the exam perspective. So, if it is, if you have a pen and paper handy, just make a note somewhere. The definition of these might come, or it might be given out in exam. For example, they might give a situation that they say, this is an example of unanimity, majority, plurality, or dictatorship. Now, what is the meaning of these? Unanimity is when everybody inside the group, let's say we are we have six stakeholders, when everybody agrees. Give me a minute, somebody is at home. Just a minute. Is when everybody, all six of the participants in the brainstorming session, when everybody agrees to a requirement, only then that requirement would be accepted. Otherwise, it will not be accepted. For example, when I'm making a car, when I'm giving an order for my car, let's say me, my wife, my kids, all are sitting in a room. My kid says that it should be a sports car. Whereas in my mind, I wanted to customize a family car. I wanted to probably have an SUV or something which is big and SUV-ish and has a very good ground clearance to ensure that it goes for off-roading and all that. Now, if that requirement of my kids has to be taken up, everybody has to raise a hand, and in this situation, I'm not raising my hand. So that means we all don't agree to it unanimously. In that situation, that requirement would not be even accepted. Right, so this is the unanimity where everybody has to agree to it. Now, when out of six people, majority, right, majority is more than three people, when they raise the hand, the requirement is accepted. Always remember, accepting the requirement doesn't mean that that will be developed. That just means that this requirement will study further. We'll go and study further, and then we'll come back and find out if that should be included in the scope or not. Right, so majority is when more than 50% of the people agree to it. Plurality is when six stakeholders are there, but not six stakeholders have come up for the meeting. So when we send out the meeting invite, we send out to all six people, but not all six have come up. One of the person, he said that I'm busy, I won't be able to come. We go ahead with the meeting. Now, not all six have come. Five are there, right? When everybody has not arrived, but majority of them have arrived. In that meeting, when you're taking a decision with majority of the people, so let's say in this group, out of six, only four have come. And now, even if three people agree to something, then you take that as a requirement, right? So that's the difference between majority and plurality. Majority is when everybody is present in the room and more than 50% agree to it. Plurality is not when everybody is present in the room. Whosoever is present in the room, majority of them agree to a requirement. And dictatorship, well, a very important stakeholder, when he says,
Hello. Hello.
About what is dictatorship, plurality, majority, and unanimity. That is clear, right? What we were saying is, which is the method which we will be following? The method which we'll be following is, we have spoken about so many tools and techniques which can give us the requirements. Which is the tool and technique which we'll follow? Whatever is mentioned in my plan document. My plan document says this is the tool and technique which we'll follow. Whatever is approved as per my plan document, only those tools and techniques we'll follow to collect the requirements, not everything. All right, so that probably is very clear about which tool and technique has to be followed. Now, using this tool and technique, these tools and techniques, we have collected all the requirements. Next is the questions and surveys which we can send out, the observations, look at the task which has been done in your companies as well, the new hires which come up, they do on-job shadowing, they observe how the people are working in the company, and that's observation. Okay, Shilpa, the dictatorship is, if the same example of the car. If nobody agrees, nobody says that, they say, no, MPV is fine. I want a family car. All my stakeholders are saying, we want a family car, or my kids are saying something else. But I say, I'm paying for it, right? You better make a SUV, right? I'm driving a point, I'm saying that this has to be done, no matter what. So I'm driving a point when nobody else agrees to it. I don't care if anybody else agrees to it or not. I'm spending the money, I want it my way or highway. That is dictatorship. When one stakeholder is influencing in such a way and saying that, I don't care if others agree or not, this is what is going to be the requirement which has to be added, right? That we have the process flow charts, document analysis, agrees to it or not. I'm spending the money, I want it my way or highway. That is dictatorship. When one stakeholder is influencing in such a way and saying that, I don't care if others agree or not, this is what is going to be the requirement which has to be added, right? That is dictatorship. Prototype, when let's say you have to create a big, if you go ahead and buy even if you have invested in real estate in India, if you go ahead and buy a flat, they generally show a small model of the flats, how it's going to look like, where the parks are going to come up, where the amenities are going to come up, where the club is going to come up. That is a prototype. Create a working model. Benchmarking, compare apples to apples. Context diagram is visual representation of the business systems that covers a product scope. For example, let's say we have visual context diagram would be one of the example of the context diagram is fishbone analysis, right? Then we have the process flow charts. Document analysis is look at the various documents to come up with the with the requirements. Now all these tools and techniques that we can follow for understanding what should be my requirement. Next is we need to document these requirements, and we need to document these requirements into the requirement traceability metric. So requirement traceability metric is nothing but what are the different requirements that we have, right? What are the different requirements that we have, and what is the product, what is the business need that this particular requirement is taking care of? Is it really all the requirements that we have is some requirement that is overly ambitious, but it is not taking care of any of the business need for which the project has been created? Or the requirements which has been listed out, are they taking care of some sort of business need which was identified earlier when the validation of the project itself happened, right? So all the requirements which is mentioned should ideally take care of one of the business needs. If it is not correlating to any of the business need, we need to go back to the stakeholder and say that I'm not able to understand this requirement is taking care of which business need, right? So that either that requirement is taken off, or we get to understand which business need this particular requirement is taken care of. So we collect and we document the requirements in the requirement traceability metric, and then we go ahead and define the scope. So here, this scope that we are going to talk about, the scope that we have is to understand the product in a wider perspective, understand what the features that the project should be having, what are we developing, what are we actually going ahead and developing eventually. That is what we have in the scope. So to define the scope, we can look at the experts, we can speak to the experts, we can do the product analysis. For example, let's say one of the client comes to me and says that they are Chinese client, right? So Chinese are generally very good in copying. They are very good in looking at the product which is very successful in the market, and they want to copy that product. They come to me and they say that iPhone is very successful in the market. I want to create a replica of iPhone, but want to make it as successful as iPhone. So iPhone, they want to create exactly a phone exactly looking like an iPhone, which runs on an Android, not an iOS, because iOS is patented, but performs either equal or better than iOS, or either equal or better than iPhone, right? So that's what they have given me, and at the same point of time, it should cost less than iPhone. So now I know that what my product should look like. Analyzing the iPhone, I can come up with what should be the scope of the product. Alternative generation, alternative of what should be the material, alternative of who should be the supplier. I can look at the different suppliers. Should I make it? Should I buy it from the market? Different alternatives I can explore to define my scope. And facilitated workshops. These become my tools and techniques to define the scope that we can come up with. What are these now? Product analysis, as I said, we can break down the product and understand what the product, the components, the different components that the product is having, for example, system engineering, requirement analysis, value engineering, and so on. This will help me understand what the product should have for me to be able to deliver the product. Alternative generation, it could be create different options to identify different approaches to the project work. As we said earlier, different choice of different vendor, choice of different suppliers, choice of different locations, choice of different geography, all of that becomes my alternative generation. Facilitated workshop is to gain a common understanding of the project expectations. Key stakeholders with different area of expertise will be participated in this intensive workshops, right? So using this, I will define my scope. Next is I need to go ahead and define my work breakdown structure out of it, right? I need to go ahead and define my work breakdown structure. Before I talk about the work breakdown structure, let me give you one link, one of the video link which I would want you to see about the work breakdown structure, and then it would make much more simpler for us to understand what work breakdown structure is all about. Give me just 1 minute. I'm going to forward you that link. I'm going to send you that link on the chat window as well as the email as well. Just a minute. Just searching for the link. Give me a minute here. Creation of the right. So I have already put the link in the chat window, and I'm also going to send out the email. Let me know if you are able to see it. Go ahead and watch this video and let me know once you're done with the video. You got the details right?
Yeah, we received it.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Yeah, as soon as you're done with it, kindly let me know so you can speak out on the meeting room, and let me know once you're done with the video.
Okay.
All right, perfect, perfect.
All right, all right. Okay, so that was about the WBS, work breakdown structure. That is dividing the work. See, initially when we have the work, whatever we have to develop, it is going to be at a very high level where we would not be able to understand what is the work that has to be done to accomplish this overall product or a service. Breaking it down into a manageable task, into manageable packages. I would not say task because task is further breakdown. To a work package level is called as the work breakdown structure. Now the key word over here is you have to break it down only to a level of the work package. There is a rule here. What is the rule? The work package should not be more than, or rather it's called as the 880 rule. The work package should be designed in such a way that it is of 8 hours per day. It is not more than 8 hours per day, plus it should not exceed 80 hours. That is, don't design a work package for more than 2 weeks. 80 hours is the rule. It should be 80 hours rule is what we have, within which we have to prepare the work package, right? So in that, the work package has to be created. Now work package can be further divided to an activity level. What is that activity? For example, in the video that you have seen, it says that microwave was the last work package. Who's going to order the work pack? Who's going to order the microwave? Who's going to get the microwave? Transit of the microwave, installation of the microwave. All those are the tasks which has to be accomplished, right? To get that on place wherever it is supposed to be there. So those tasks, we have not divided the work package to the task level. The last level of the work package is the last level of the work breakdown structure is the work package. This technique is called as the work breakdown structure, right? So this is called as the work breakdown structure and is also referred as the decomposition, as is depicted in this slide. The first tool and technique which is spoken about over here is the decomposition, right? So this decomposition is dividing the work into the work package level, right? So that is what we have in the work package. So decomposition is a process of dividing and subdividing the project scope into work package level. The work package is the lowest level of the work that has to be completed from the work breakdown structure perspective, right? So this is how you define the work breakdown structure. Now we have to, next is what we have is we need to validate the scope. Now validation of the scope is we have already built up what has to be developed. So we have validated, we have prepared the work breakdown structure. Each of the work breakdown structure is prepared. Work breakdown structure dictionary is also prepared, in which the details of the work breakdown structure for the each work package has been mentioned. Next is we are executing it now, right? So we have moved away from execution. During execution we need to validate if we are developing what we were supposed to develop or we are deviating from it. So the purpose of this process is to get the formal acceptance of the completed deliverables from the customer. We need to ensure that we are getting the acceptance of whatever we are developing from the customer. So we need to validate and get the acceptance from the customer. How would we validate? So in the QC, I'm sure Shrisha would be well versed with it. So this is what she is also doing. What we do is we inspect, right? We are doing inspection. The inspection can be done by just by looking at it from the IT perspective. You prepare the test cases and then validate. Another one would be if it's a manufacturing environment. Let's say if you're manufacturing a car, you can inspect it by looking at it, right? Or you can do a test run to find out if it is bearing all the test conditions or not. Or as a group also you would be able to find out if it is meeting the criteria or not. So as a group also you can come up with a decision if it is meeting the criteria or not. The group decision making techniques, it remains the same over here as we had in the requirements. It is unanimity, majority, plurality, dictatorship. What are these techniques? Once again, unanimity, everybody has to agree to it. Majority, more than 50% has to agree to it. Plurality, when not everybody has arrived, but whosoever has arrived in the room, majority of the people who have arrived in the room agrees to it. And dictatorship is when one of the senior QA says that this is fine, this particular product whichever is mentioned is meeting my quality standard, it's absolutely fine, that becomes my dictatorship, right? So with that also it can be done. Now from validation of the scope, it can be looked at from this perspective as well. You go to one of the client and client has assigned only one person to validate. When he says it meets, it meets. When he says it doesn't meet, it doesn't meet. Now those kind of ambiguous situations often come when we have not defined a clearly measurable acceptance criteria. It is left up to a person to decide, right? Which is not a very good strategy to be in place. We need to ensure that we have an acceptance criteria clearly defined. Now, if we are deviating what has to be done, we need to ensure that we control the scope. So control the scope is a process where the status of the project and product scope will be monitored on a regular basis, where the changes to the scope baseline are being made. The changes to the scope are monitored, tracked and managed, right? So that becomes my control scope. To monitor if we are on track or not, what do? We do the variance analysis, right? How much are we varying? Are we on track? Are we varying too much to what we were supposed to develop, or we are not varying? So that becomes a variance analysis. So what is variance analysis? Let's spend a few minutes on the variance analysis. It is a technique that we have to compare the baseline with the actual project performance. It determines the cause and degree of the difference between both, and it helps and make a decision whether preventive or corrective action is supposed to be taken or not, right? So that is my variance analysis. That completes us with the scope management chapter. This is all that we have from the scope management chapter. Now let's go ahead and
So I was just thinking about this. So we have almost started the session more than 1 hour 15 minutes ago, almost 1 hour 15 minutes ago. We have an option. We can break for our scheduled 30 minutes break. I was thinking if we can continue for some more time and then probably break early today. Instead of taking the break, we can continue the session for another 15-20 minutes and then we can break it, without taking the break. What would be comfortable for you? Do you want to go for break now, or do you want to continue now and then, what is your preference?
Please continue.
For me also continue.
All right, perfect. All right, then give me a second. Let me just gulp some water and then I will continue. Give me just 1.5 minutes and then we will get started. Give me a minute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
others also kindly confirm. Are you back from? Let's get started about the time management. So the time management, now as we said earlier, remember we said that about the CTS and the TCS, these are the iron triangle. Iron triangle is also referred as the project triple constraints. Why do we call it as a triple constraint? Any one dimension you change, the other two dimensions of the triangle has to change, otherwise it will be imbalanced triangle. And the quality which is in between this triangle and the risk which is inverted triangle within this triangle will get squeezed, which we don't want, right? One parameter changes, other two parameter also changes. Now the time management, a lot of questions do come from the time management and the cost management. The tools and techniques, the way we plan for the time management is very, very similar or rather the same than the way we plan for the cost management as well. About so the project is always viable, or project makes a lot of sense if we do it within a specified time period and cost. That is why it is very, very important that we always manage the time of the project. We need to ensure that the project doesn't exceed my time limit. It doesn't exceed beyond the agreed time limits which we have decided, right? It should stay within those limits.
that's about the time management. Let's get started with the time management topic, and let's discuss what we have in the time management. In time management, we have 7 processes that we have in time management. First, we will plan for the schedule management or the time management. What is plan? Plan is what are the tools and techniques which I will use? What will I do it? How will I do it? What are the tools and techniques which I will use? How will I ensure that I gather the information about what is the optimal time my project is going to take? How would I manage my time in a sense that if there is any deviation, how would I ensure that what are the thresholds after which I need to report it back to the project board? If there is any change, what would be the change management procedure? How would I involve the change inside my project, right? So change management procedure is very simple. If there is a change desired, either by you, your team members, or your client, or your project board, any of the stakeholders, if there is a change desired, change is logged. Change is logged into a, wherever, whatever procedure that you have defined. If it's a portal or whatever procedure that you have defined, the change has to be logged using that procedure. Then change is evaluated by you about the impact of the change on terms of time, cost, and risk. So we evaluate the impact of the change. Now, evaluation is done by the project manager along with the help of the expert. After the evaluation, project manager, depending upon the plan document, so let's say in the plan document it says that the change, if change is less than, now who sits in the project board? Senior directors, sponsor, all the people whose time is scarce. They don't have too much of time. So I don't want them to be bothered with too much of change requests, right? But changes will be huge. There will be a lot of changes in the project. Now, in my plan document, if it is mentioned and approved, saying that if the change is less than, change impact is less than $5,000, project manager has the right to approve it. Project manager can go ahead and directly approve or reject it. He can take a decision. If that's been mentioned in the plan document, project manager can take a decision. If it is greater than any, now I'm not saying 5,000 is the threshold value. It depends upon you, your project board. It depends upon the comfort zone that they have. It could be just $1,000. It could be $1. It could be $0. It could be 10,000. It could be $100,000. It depends. Now, after the threshold, any change which is evaluated by the project manager goes to the project board. So project board can either approve it, can reject it, or they can defer it for future. They might just say that, okay, we'll take a decision on it later. Now, whatever is done, it needs to be recorded into the change log. If it is approved, it needs to be built into the plan documents and needs to be executed, and then change is evaluated to find if it's successful. If not, again, change has to be raised for whatever changes has to be made. If it was rejected or if it was deferred, it has to be mentioned in the change log, right? So that's the change management process. All this information, the thresholds, the unit of measure, the tools and techniques, all this is mentioned in my plan document, right? Even the power of project manager. What is the power of project manager? If the change is of less than 2 days, 5 days, project manager has a right to approve it, right? So all those things are mentioned in my plan document. After I've planned it, I need to define the activities. How do I define the activities? I can go down one level below the WBS, the work breakdown structure. So in the work breakdown structure, if I go one level below, then I should be able to define my activities. For example, let's say this is work that has to be done, and these are the work packages that we have. This entire work that has to be done. And this is package 1, this is 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right, so I can define all the activities for work package 1, similarly for 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's and then I can sequence those activities, or what I can do is I can first define the activities only for work package 1. Plan for the work package which you're going to do now, plan for it in detail, and you have already done the high-level planning of the other work packages, so don't plan it at the moment. When we reach over there, we will plan for them. This is called as rolling wave planning. How would you do it? It depends upon what you've mentioned in the plan document, right? If it is detailed, then you would do it right away now. If it was not detailed, then you would not do it right away completely now. You would do it at a later stage, right? So define activities, you would go ahead and define the activities depending upon whatever was mentioned in your plan document, then you need to sequence those activities. Sequencing the activity would mean which activity has to be done first. Let's say activity A has to be done first. After only doing activity A, B and C can be started together. I'm not saying they will be started together. I'm saying that's a dependency. B and C can only be started after activity A is done. There's no dependency on activity B and C. Only after activity B is done, activity D can be done. And only after activity C is done, activity E can be done. Only after activity D and E are done, I can do my last activity, which is activity F, right? So let's say this is my entire project, a very small example of the project. So this is how I'm sequencing the activities. Sequencing the activities still is not giving me the time frame, how much time it's going to take. So I'm going to estimate the resources. Now for same activity, I can do the activity depending upon, let's say if I have 2 people, I can do the activity let's say with 2 people, if I'm doing the activity in 1 week, I can do the same work in 2.5 days, provided I have 4 people. Double the resources, I would be able to do it faster. So both of them is done together, and how would you estimate the resources? It depends upon how much of budget also you have, right? So all of these, that's why go hand in hand. Estimate the activity resources and then estimate the activity duration. Let's say this is the activity duration for this activity is 5. Then the activity duration for the next activity B is 5 days. Activity duration for the activity is 5 days, and for F is another 5 days. There is another chain here. This was one chain, A, B, T, F. Another chain is A, C, E, F. For activity C, let's say you're going to do this activity in 3 days, and activity E you're going to be doing in another 3 days. Always remember the duration of your project is the longest chain, right? The total duration of the project is decided as by the longest chain. So what is the longest chain over here? A, B, T, and F, which is 20 days, right? So total duration of my project is 20 days. I can do my project in 20 days. It's very simple as well. If you do this way, if you go this way, 5, 3, 8, and then you have 11 days, you cannot do activity F till the time you have also done activity D, which will only be done after 15th day. Even if you have completed this activity E on the 11th day, remaining 4 days you have to wait for activity D also to be finished to start activity F. So what is the overall duration of your project? A, B, D, F. Now activity C and E can be done in parallel, and if you are saying 20 days, then you have to do in parallel, right? Play around with the time, and that's how you will be able to finish. Now this longest chain that we have is also called as the critical path. What is critical path? Critical path is the path on which you cannot miss the timeline even by a single day. If you miss the timeline, your project will be delayed, right? Imagine in this one, if instead of 3 days you're able to do the activity in 5 days. 5 plus 3 is 8. Here 5 plus 5 is 10. You're still gonna be able to complete the activity E before activity D is completed. Here you can delay the activity. C and E can be delayed, but you cannot delay activity B or D. Even if you delay the activity by 1 day, let's say instead of 5, if activity B takes 6 days, my project duration instead of 20 will become 21, which is not correct, right? My project is getting delayed. So that is the concept of critical path. So I have defined the duration, and then I have developed the entire schedule using the critical path. As you see, let me again go ahead and draw it over here. Let's say activity A has to be done first, activity B is done later, activity C is done after activity A is done, activity B and C can be started together, and then activity D can be done only after activity B is done, activity E can be done only after C is done, only after D and E are done, I can do activity F. Now, activity A is taking 5 days, activity B is taking 5 days, D is taking 5 days, and F is taking another 5 days. E is taking 3 days, C and E is taking 3 days each, right? So that means you can, your longest chain is A, B, D, F, right? Now in this A, B, D, F, you cannot delay your activity. Imagine if for some reason, because let's say there was unknown risk. For known risk you have already planned, right? For unknown risk, activity B gets delayed by 2 days. it gets delayed by 2 days. Logic says it's okay, even if it gets delayed by 2 days, I can complete my activity T little early or activity F little early, and I should still be able to meet the timeline of 20 days. What do you think? Does that happen? Praveen, Shrisha, anyone? What do you think? Is that logic valid? What do you think? Is that fine?
Then we need to complete our D job in 3 days. Then only we can meet our deadline.
Others, what do you think, guys? So, Somek, what do you think? Would we be able to complete in 20 days overall?
So if my B activity is taking plus 2 days extra, then I need to complete my D activity in less than 3 days, or in between 3 days.
Right, right, absolutely. Logic says that we would be able to speed up the other activity, and we would be able to do the do the task in little early, and average we still would be able to meet it. But then, does this happen in the real life? In real life, it does not happen. There are multiple reasons why it does not happen in the real life. Suppose you have done the work, right? So you do the work early, one activity, because your project manager was forcing you. You have done it early. Now your colleagues would say you're a rate buster. Because of you, now I have to work harder and I would have to complete the work faster. So now you don't want to be a bad person, bad influence inside the team, and you would not be doing it faster. And second, it's called as the Parkinson's law. Now this Parkinson's law states that work tends to fit into the available time period that we have. Imagine the situation, go back a couple of years ago, and imagine the time when you were there in your college. At that point of time, when did we start studying? Probably a night before, or the best a month or month and a half before the exam. We never started studying right on the first day of us going to the college. That's because till the time we know that there is available time that we have, we would not start the work, right? So towards the end, when we know that the work is limited, now we have to start the work, there is no other go, that's when we actually start. So what happens is, even if one activity gets delayed, the other activities we would not be able to do it on time. Other activities eventually tend to get delayed. Other activities not tend to get delayed, even if they get completed in time, my overall project will still get delayed. Right, so there is a beautiful video that we have on critical chain. This is called as critical chain, which is built up considering the buffers for the risk factors which can delay my project. I'm going to share it with you, with all of you. Give me a second, and then if I have anything else that I want to talk about this one, and then we will start it. And then I'll share the link of the video.
So I have a question here.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. Ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So in this particular situation, like when B did the activity with extra 2 days, so there is a risk of delayed of 2 days in the project, right?
Yes.
If everybody takes the same amount of the time what is allocated to them.
Exactly.
That this time B has to take a call, and he has to call for a meeting for the risk, because the task is taken 7 days, and probably new resource has to be allocated to complete the task on time.
Right.
So usually this approach you follow in means current organization where you work.
Right, right. Yeah, absolutely right. That's one of the situation which can, that's one of the approach that you can follow. Normally project managers and even PMI, what we recommend from PMI perspective, and this has been what I have been following, instead of communicating 20 days to my project board, right? My chain that I've developed, my path that I've developed over here is for 20 days. Instead of communicating 20 days to my project board, I would probably going to communicate 25 days. And 5 days is the buffer days which I have. I will be building in the buffer. What is buffer based on? It is based on my risk analysis. So I would know, right, on all the activities, what is the risk? Maybe one of the activity, the risk is I would be losing my, I probably would be losing my resource. If resource leaves, then my project would get delayed by 2 days. If my critical resource leaves or has to work on some other, whatever the risk is. Now, based on all that risk analysis, I need to keep a buffer. Now, that buffer, how do we keep? What is the exact buffer that we keep? I'm going to send you 2 videos now. So I think we are pretty much done for the day. This is all that we had to cover. We will be continuing the time management chapter tomorrow. I'm going to send out 2 videos to you. This will talk about the entire critical paths, which is how do you define the schedule of the project? And then why critical path is not the right path, why we need to build in buffer and how we need to build in buffers, right? So all that will be covered in 2 videos, which I'm going to send it out to you. That would take care of your question as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before finishing, I just wanted to talk to for 1 minute.
Sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, actually yesterday I have not attended the class. So shall I go through the video, and if I have any queries, I'll like send you a mail or.
Absolutely. Go through the video which I have sent it out to you. It's as good as running the session because it's it's a live recorded session which I've sent it out. But if you have any doubts, any concerns, please feel free to send me the question. Feel free to send me the doubts here. I have a couple of people who are here sitting over here as well who are attending the session, live session. It's Praveen, Shrisha, Shilpa. There are a couple of other people as well along with you guys who are attending the session. So at any point of time, sometimes they might not be here and I need to send out the details to them. I'm absolutely open for you to send me any kind of questions at any point of time. Please feel free to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're most welcome. So, all right, guys, I've already sent out the details to you. I think we can wrap up the session over here. For time management, I've just given you the introduction about time management. What are the things that has to be covered in time management? All of this will pretty much get covered tomorrow as well. This was more of a foundation that we wanted to build. Now, this foundation, we're going to, on this foundation, we're going to build a stronger, entire skill for you. That will be doing it tomorrow. Please, I've already sent out the email with the links of critical path and critical chain. Please watch that video before you come for the session tomorrow.
What time it will start tomorrow?
Tomorrow 10 p.m. It is going to be 10 p.m. IST, India Standard Time.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 p.m. sharp. All right then, guys. Thank you. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.